What's up, everyone? It's Nick from Team Nitro YGO here, and today I am bringing you my Mitsurugi deck profile and tournament report from the Lansing Regional that occurred this past weekend. Unfortunately, I was not able to secure my invite. I only got 37th place out of 204 players, but I did write down all of my matchups. So we're going to quickly go over them, and then we can talk about the deck itself. So, round 1, I played against Ennecraft. I won 2-0. Round 2, I played against Pure Branded. I lost 1-2. This was ended up being the gentleman who won the regional, so shout out to him. I believe his name was Antonio. Great player. Pleasant guy as well. Round 3 was DoomZ. I won 2-0. Round 4 was Pure Branded. I lost 0-2, just kind of two abysmal games, both because of the play pattern and because of the way I played them. That's a match I'd like to forget. Round 5 was Branded Elfnote. I won 2-1. Game 1, I was able to just like blank all of my opponent's removal with the main deck protection of the Mitsu monsters. Game 2, they hand looped me for 3 cards. And then game 3, they threw 2 hand traps at me. It didn't matter, and I was able to make my full board. Round 6 was Kewl Tune. I won 2-0. By far the easiest match of the day. I came very prepared for the matchup. Was happy with how the deck was in those games. Round 7 was the Mitsurugi Mirror. I lost 1-2. Game 1, I probably could have won with some slightly better play. But game 3 was just a massive statistical anomaly. I was never winning that game, I don't think. And then round 8 was Sky Striker. It would have been a double loss, but my opponent was very gracious to concede as I was ahead on resources and ahead in tempo. So shout out to you, my round 8 opponent. You're the GOAT. So yeah, unfortunately, only 32 invites given out. This regional was a very small event. 204 players. So 37th place. Considering it's my first big event in over a year, I will take it. A lot of it is because I'm focusing on Magic to shout out my team, Midwest MTG. But I wanted to go over the list. This is the list that I played at the regional card for card. I'll talk about the changes that I want to make to the deck after, because there are definitely some things that I was unhappy about with the way the deck was today. So, but for the main deck is very standard. So 1 Habakiri, 2 Murakumo, and 1 Futsu for the rituals. I didn't feel like any more were necessary. I wanted to try to avoid drawing cards that were really bad on their own. So I wanted to make sure that the deck was drawing a proportionate amount of engine to consistency to non-engine. So only played the 4 rituals, and then for the little guys, 3 Aramasa, because it's a 1-card combo, 1 Saji, 1 Kusanagi, and I did main deck the Wosu. A colleague of mine was really high on this card, and to be honest, it was kind of underwhelming for me. Never really ran into too many spots where it came up. It was like fine. I don't think I'd cut it, but like it's certainly like the most unimpressive card in the main deck to me. Because again, when you draw it, going first doesn't do anything. You never really want to search it. You don't want to give your opponent the information that it's like in your deck until you have to. But in theory, this card outs Dogma for you without having to burn your Dugaris. And against like DoomZ, you can out the guy wearing Destruction, so you can play the game that way too. So that's it for like the Mitsu monsters. We'll talk about the spells real quick. So 3 prayers, best card in the deck. 3 ritual. This was another thing I was unsure about, but I think just maxing out on engine was super important for this event. Just making sure your deck could play the game every turn. 3 pre-prep with 2 mirror. Again, this was another thing that I wasn't particularly sold on, was playing 2 mirror. But again, the theory like behind our deck building, which was if our deck got to play, then we didn't really care about what the rest of the cards were because our engine was good enough. And for the most part, that was true. Like every game that I actually got to play and my cards resolved, I never felt like I was out of engine, or I never felt like my cards were mismanaged. A lot of it was just pure technical play for me, not the individual cards themselves. But the extra ritual spells are definitely the biggest choke point in the deck, because Saji is like getting ashed a lot. So being able to just like play with 2-card combos through interaction is like really, really important. And these cards are like fine when you go second as well, giving you more pushes into boards. But the fact that you can only use mirror once per turn is like really tough, because I had a lot of games in the regional where I'd go like do 2 ritual summons with ritual, doing hand and deck, and then I wanted to mirror twice so I could reborn my guy, but you just can't do that. It's a hard once per turn, so unlucky. And then the Great Purification as well. Very standard. So that's it for the Mitsu engine, 21 cards. Now for the consistency enablers, 3 vision with the MST. I know this is really annoying. I could only buy 2 supers the event. It was so annoying. So 3 vision with MST, 2 extravagance, and the 1 prosperity. So I wanted to play some way to dig deeper into the deck for non-engine. and I felt like I was going to play Prosperity for sure. These 6 cards are definitely like the flex slots in the deck. They can be any variety of things you want them to be. They could be hand traps if you wanted, if you just felt like you have enough engine, so you want to back it up with more non-engine. I think that's entirely defensible. For me, particularly over the course of the regional, I was not unhappy with these cards. Of the 3, Vision performed the weakest, but that was more so just because of the fact that I never wanted to discard a quick play spell to draw 2, unless my hand was already so good that it could play, or it was so bad I had to. The MST was actually really good, but you're only playing the MST with the Vision, so if you cut the Vision, you're going to cut all 4. The extras were fine, never really conflicted with anything. Prospy's broken, so that's like all I can really add about that. Like, it's one of those things to where the quick play spells are so broken that you're probably going to play them anyway, which makes Vision better. But it also makes Vision really awkward because your quick play spells are also like combo cards for you. It's not like Striker where you're adding quick play spells over the course of your turn anyway for disruption. So you could like Vision pitch a starter and then play, and then you get that starter back. Mitsu can't really do that, at least not as easily. So it's certainly a deck building choice. I think going forward, if there was a way for me to not play these cards but still have consistency, I would definitely think about it. And now for the non-engine of the main deck, for the busted limited cards, Shifter and Called By. They're broken. Get them out of my fucking game, please. These were atrocious. Shifter was busted. I only resolved it once, but the game I resolved it, I did win. And then Called By was... funnily enough, this was better going second for me than it was going first in the event. But I also had a lot of games where I drew this card, and then forgot it was in my hand. For some reason, I don't know why my brain just kept blanking on this being a reactive card, but I had a lot of games going second, particularly into Branded and the Mirror, being able to Call By like a Murakumo or a Walbaz to negate the Albaz when they summon from deck was like really huge for me over the course of the weekend. So, yeah, 100% I would main these cards no matter what. And then for the board breakers, 3 Forbidden Droplets, 3 Super Polymerization, and 3 Dominus Impulse. These are kind of the de facto best ones. Impulse is in a really weird spot where it's half a breaker, half a hand trap. Because this deck doesn't have mass quantity of non-engine, it's really hard for Impulse to be a hand trap unless it's a very clear choke point for the opponent. So you never really want to go down the card unless it's going to end the opponent's turn. I still feel like you're going to play this card just because it is so broken, and it's one of the reasons to play the deck, is you get to play this card for no consequence. But it not being a quick play spell is relevant. These 6, however, were absolutely fucking insane. Like, the whole reason to play the deck is that you get to play these 6 cards. Super Poly, I think, is like the card of the format right now. Just every deck gets hit by this card in some way, shape, or form. This deck in particular plays really hard into it. Like, I had to build so many weird end boards so that I didn't get Super Poly for my life savings. But, like, I was fusing away all sorts of shit. It was insane. And Droplet pairs really well with your heavy engine. Being able to force your things through RS. Being able to force your things through on-field negation. And also, if they go to destroy your stuff with something like Fallen in the Virtuous or Mirror Jade, you can chain the Droplet, get it out of the way, put it in the graveyard so that it is eligible for you to get later. All 9 of these cards I was very happy with, had no qualms with them whatsoever. So that's it for the main deck. It is a clean 40 cards. Like I said before, really the only changes I would make to the deck in hindsight are the Vision package. I think that for the sake of making the deck better in a vacuum, they're probably not supposed to be here. And then removing the Wosu and the second Mirror from the deck. So 40 cards in the main, onto the extra deck. Which, it's Mitsu, the extra doesn't really matter, but there are definitely a couple of things that do. So, for links, 1 IP. This is kind of the weakest card in the extra deck, actually, because of Fallen in the Virtuous being so prevalent in the format. They just go draw phase F and V this, and your end board went from 5 disruptions to 1, which is, like, really bad. So, 1 IP, 2 SP, because of extravagance, you want to make sure that you have one, because this was often one of my end board pieces. I played Dark as a card for the Mirror and for Branded. This was the best card in Max Deck, I think, by far. This was the card that I definitely summoned the most, and it came up the most often for me. Especially after Super Polying. Like, I got to Super Poly away a Branded board, make a Rura, Normaled Aramasa, like added Habakiri, made this, took the Mirror Jade, and forced a Fall on the Virtuous, like right then and there. And it cost me nothing. Like, I got to play the game for free after that, which was, like, insane. 2 Dynamondo, same thing with the SP. This is your best card by far on your end board, so you want to make sure that you have the ability to have access to it through a Pot of Extravagance. And then Gorgon, this is a card you can make out of the Wosu lock because it's a reptile. It never came up for me this weekend, but it does come up in really gummy game states, especially with Dogma. Like, you can put this in the extra monster zone pointing up, and if the Dogma is in any of the 3 zones, then this gains 35, so you're able to beat over the Dogma. That's it. That's it for the links onto the Xyz monsters. I only played 3. Dugaris, I've seen some people not play this card. I don't understand why. This is like my most summoned card of the extra deck by far. Just drawing 2, going first, helps you dig for non-engine. The revive actually comes up when you're trying to push into boards. And the double attack also comes up when you're going for game or you're trying to clear problematic boss monsters. I would never play this deck without Dugaris. Baguska never came up for me, but in theory it's like a backup plan if you get Fluid. You can only give them 1 draw, make this, and then force them to add it. But again, Falling on the Virtuous being everywhere kind of nullifies this card. Very similar to IP. It still comes up, though. It comes up more than any of the other rank 4s. But, and then I did play Typhon. I know some people aren't playing this card either. I don't get it. Typhon's great. Being able to bounce a card and just have a guy on your board, even though you can't Murakumo under it, your opponent has to answer it, and then after they answer it, you can play. Typhon was very, very good for me. And I didn't make it a lot. I made it like 3 or 4 times over the course of the regional. But the games that I made it, I was very happy to have it in my extra deck. So then for the super play targets, I played the standard 5 of Garura, Mud Dragon, Sea Monster of Theseus, Secretarion, and Dragon that Devours the Dogma. So Garura and Mud Dragon is the most generic Sea Monster for Kewl Tune. I hate that this thing is $30 fucking, by the way. This stupid card is $30. Fuck me. And then Secretarion and Dogma are branded targets. I felt like I wanted 1 for the Dracotel variant and 1 for Pure, so I make this against Dracotel and this against Pure. I made this more than anything off of Super Poly over the course of the event, just because often when Super Poly was getting activated, it was my opponent flipping it on me to make their own Dogma. So I wanted to be able to have an out. So this can, and it also clears Graveyard Follow-Up, but you can Secretarion as well if you need to in gummy board states. Yeah, these are the 5 that I played. I was very happy with them. I would, if I were to fit a 6th, it would be Panzer Dragon, because it comes up against DoomZ, but that is only if you're really like scared of that matchup. So that's it for the extra deck. Onto the side deck. This is definitely the part of the deck that I messed up the most when registering for this regional. Looking back, I should have played an entirely different side deck, or maybe not entirely different, but a mostly different side deck. So for the regional, I played 2 Droll. This card was incredibly underwhelming for me. I felt like the best approach to the FTK decks was just to try to Charmy plus Breaker them, as opposed to trying to Droll them and ending the turn. This card is just so subpar as an actual hand trap, because if your opponent can play through it, you're just down a card for no reason. And you can't really board this in when you're going first either, because it shuts off a lot of your follow-up. Like, you can't really draw your opponent on Res of a Search, because then you're going to deny yourself all your summons from grave, or at least all your tributes from grave, which is like really bad, because that's how you generate follow-up for your turn, is by summoning from grave and tributing your main deck guys. So this is definitely on the chopping block for me in terms of cutting. 3 Fua, broken, never cut this card. Card's insane. I never resolved, I think I resolved Fua once the whole regional, and I drew 1 card off it, and it was like, cool. 2 Golem, this was the best card for me the whole weekend. This card was tributing boards. Like, this in Super Poly was letting me crack boards left, right, and center. I had no problem breaking boards. Again, if my deck got to play, I had total confidence in the ability to convert. It was just a matter of being able to play. And this card lets you play. It outs like all the FTK decks that aren't actually FTKing you. It's the pseudo FTK decks that this card beats, which is a lot of the format. So this is a card I consider playing 3 of. And this is where I fucked up. I should not have played Thrust. I should not have played Talent. These cards were incredibly underwhelming for me. So Thrust, when I went second, like in theory, Thrust when you go second is broken because it gets you pre-prep or it gets you a breaker, which is true. However, I felt like the weakest part of my deck was actually going first and not going second. I felt like between Fua, Golem, Wosu, the 11 main deck breakers, there was more than enough non-engine to not have to worry about going second. So I wanted this card for its modality of being able to be useful when you go first or second. The problem, though, is that some of your opponents just don't have hand traps in their deck. And if they don't have hand traps in their deck, this card doesn't do anything. And again, if you go second and your opponent just doesn't activate a monster effect, this card doesn't do anything. Like, this format is about card quality and getting every incremental advantage you can out of your cards. The variability of thrust made me not want to play it. Going forward, if I end up considering this deck for future events like Nationals, I will be considering cutting this package. Most likely will start my testing without these cards in the deck. They were by far the weakest cards in the deck in terms of them being breakers and auto wins going first. Because even when I went first, it's not this that wins you the game, it's the cards that it sets, and I'd rather just play more of those. And then for backer removal, I played Feather Duster and Lightning Storm. I should have played another Lightning Storm because I really wanted more backer removal. I felt like this was not enough, but played one of those. And then the 3 auto win cards I played for going first are Different Dimension Ground, Dracotail Flame, and Solemn Judgment. So Judgment's broken. I'm not going to say anything about it. This card was fantastic for me. Same with DDG. Never really did it in the regional, but in the games that I played leading up to the regional, this card won me so many games. It was by far maybe the best performing card in the side deck next to Lava Golem, and I would consider playing more of them. Flame was here because I don't own Solemn Accusation. I think that this deck has a really hard time into breakers, and particularly Fallen in the Virtuous, because of its Reborn effect, being able to steal your Murakumo, denying you follow-up, and giving them a big-ass body to kill you with. I think this deck really wants Accusation, so I would consider cutting some combination of these cards for Accusations for when you go first. Because I think outside of Super Poly, the breakers are the worst thing for you. Super Poly you can't do anything about because you can't respond to it. But these cards were here to try to insulate going first and be thrust targets. And they didn't really do that. They were kind of just very good cards for when I was going first in side deck games. Judgment, again, this card's very flexible. I was able to negate engine and non-engine for me. And these 2 cards just do what's labeled on the box. I think if I were to go back a week and give myself some advice on deck building, these 6 cards would be something else. Or at least these 5 cards would be something else. I would play different going first and going second cards. I just don't know what they are yet. I don't know if it's more hand traps. I don't know if it's more breakers. I don't know if it's floodgates. I don't know if it's more Di-Fi or if it's more DDG. Maybe even something like Book of Eclipse was something I thought about as well. Because that card, again, has mortality on the play and the draw. So I don't know what the correct answer is there. That's something that I'm going to need to actually put like testing into to figure out which one I think is the correct way to approach. So that's it for the deck. I feel like for the most part, in terms of it being a Mitsu deck, it is incredibly standard. There is nothing fancy about what I'm trying to do here. It's just cookie cutter Mitsu. Try to make your cards resolve and then win the game when they do. And I think for the most part, all of my losses today, outside of my round 4, were completely my fault and they were completely fixable. And that's a good sign. It shows that the theory that was put into the deck was good theory, and it was just poor execution on my part, which is something that I can fix. Whereas if the theory was bad, then I have to re-go to the drawing board, and it's not about the technical play. So this is certainly a deck I'm going to keep trying to tinker with. I do enjoy playing this deck. It gives me the happy brain chemicals because you get to play all the broken quick play spells, and you get to play Dominus Impulse, which is one of my favorite cards of the last 5 years. So anyway, that is going to do it for the deck profile and the tournament report. Thank you guys so much for sticking it out for me. I appreciate it. Again, if you just want a visual view of the deck list, it'll be the first DB link in the description. And also go ahead and friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting more updates and more deck profiles as we get closer to the NAWCQ. So my name is Nick from Team Natural YGO. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.